I found a whole new knob after last week that in the sound room. That's actually coming out of the... There were about 100 before. Oh well, we can make it up. How's that? Enough sound out there? So, hi everybody. A beautiful thing happened on the way over here today. I was at the crosswalk where the bikes go across for the Springwater corridor, and I think it was grandparents with a small child, and the little boy was on bike. And I stopped, as one ought to by law, and I crossed there on my own bike often. And sometimes, the other day I had actually a close call. If I had not been attentive and defensive, I would have gotten hit. Because I was there at the crosswalk, I was stopped, and there was a fellow here. And it just didn't seem right. He was stopped, but the light was changing. And I have serious lights on my bike and on my helmet, and I flashed him with my 700 lumen light on my helmet, and he pretended not to notice me. And then I flashed him again, and then I turned my light right on him. I was like, and then the light changed and he drove. So he was in a trance of some kind. But this morning, I stopped and waved. They all waved at me, the two adults. And then I did, those quick little beep beeps you can do with your car horn? Did beep beep. And we communed, and they waved back, and I suddenly got very filled with tears. And there's so much beauty possible between us human beings. So, love is so close. And this morning I had dabbled in the news for about 5 minutes and saw how much anguish there is in the world because we're caught in our emotions and we're lost in this trance of the self. And so the beauty of that interaction really touched me this morning, and I bring that here to us, and let's build on that, and let's end this fantasy that we call a year. Isn't that funny? We make a big deal. Everything's hurtling through space completely. 9 miles a second we travel around the sun, and the Earth's spinning, and we say, this is the beginning. But it helps, because then we can initiate things. So let's chant these beautiful chants. Anybody here for the first time today? Oh my goodness, a bunch. What are you doing here? Don't you have something better to do on a Sunday morning than come and sit and meditate? Jeez. Losers, obviously. Stop it. Oh dear. I might get in trouble today. Well, for those of you that are here for the first time, I hope this isn't just a morning outing, but it actually is something that changes your life. Maybe it connects you with something that you've been looking for or that you already have, and really leads you on your way to happiness and freedom and lots of love. So please join me in these refuges. I'll explain them a little bit since there's so many new people. What is the Buddha? It's surely not that piece of wood up there. Nor is it a person, Siddhartha Gautama, who lived 2,600 years ago. It's that in us which is awake. which we don't pay much attention to, but it's amazing. Right now, you're awake, right? You're seeing, you're hearing. That's the Buddha. That's what's awake. And that, remarkably, is neither born nor dies. That's pretty weird. So that's the Buddha. The Dharma is the teachings and the way of life. But most fundamentally, hello, Gary. Most fundamentally, the Dharma is the way things are. So our meditation is about relaxing into the way things are, rather than trying to become something different. And the third, the refuge in the Sangha, is in community, but not just our little community of support, but the community of all life. There's a lot of us here alive on the earth right now. And we're one big family, really, totally interdependent. And then there's one other image of that, which is Sangha also reflects the community of beings who have awakened, who've remembered what and who we really are. So we have our family of origin. How was your Christmas? Family of origin with all its politics and weirdness and so on. But we also have this other spiritual family, which is our predecessors who have led the way. So that's what these chants are about. And I invite you to join me as you wish. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. My fingers aren't cooperating. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Dharma, I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. Sangha, I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. Yes. Uh-oh. Well, there we go. Something else I noticed on the way over from my home in Beaverton was most of the time the mind was in trance of some kind or another, thinking about this or thinking about that. And then every now and then, all of a sudden, it would just wake up. And then there would be the road and the body and the slight ache in my right eye and a slight tension in the chest that I have because of my cold, and the road, and everything moving, and no thoughts, just quiet. And then there'd be a thought or two, and then back into the trance, and then who knows why, a ways down the road, back out, awake. That's the practice. The practice is emphasizing and acknowledging those moments of awakeness. And in those moments of awakeness, it's not me that's awake, it's just awake. And so that means that our practice is about being awake to whatever is happening, and to watch the little irritations arise and the big irritations arise, and watch the sadness arise and the grief and the self-criticism and other criticism, and then awake. And then tranquil and easy and beautiful and sweet and delicious, and then awake. So let's be awake together for a little while here this morning. Just thought my colleague and dear friend Christine Howard is here. Are you doing the consults? You're not? Oh, good. We can come visit. We taught years ago, a decade ago, God, in this room, we taught workshops for mental health professionals, several hundred over 3 workshops. And we had as our aspiration, when you're doing professional training, you have to have workshop goals. If you come, you will get this, and you can then get continuing ed credit. And our primary goal was that everyone in the room would have at least one moment of being awake, and that we would consider it a success in a 2-day workshop if there was, and they saw it and they knew it. If they knew, oh, that's what mindfulness is. That's what awake is. So let's have at least 10 of those this morning. So let's start with our eyes open, seeing. Seeing and knowing it. That's one. Seeing it and knowing it. Then let your eyes move around and see things, objects. How exquisite to be sighted still, to have sight. And then, if you're comfortable letting your eyes close, notice how it is to let them close. And you don't have to if that's not comfortable, but if you're not going to close them, just let them be soft and downcast. And then, now let's bring awareness into the body, into this sitting form. It's alive. It's tingling and vibrating. Cold, warm, there's pressure. There's the contact of clothing with the body. You could notice that there's aliveness in what you think of as your hands. You can notice that there's aliveness in the face. You could notice that your feet are alive, or that the place that you think of as your feet is alive. In fact, anywhere you choose to place awareness in this body, you'll discover sensations. And notice that they are changing. The very nature of sensation is to be flashing into being and then disappearing and then repeating, perhaps. and your body is breathing. You are an integral part of the web of life. Quite literally, you breathe in the off-gassing from trees, from plankton, from algae, all the green things. Your other lungs are the forests in the Amazon. But these lungs expand and contract. And they have since that first moment when your mother couldn't breathe for you anymore. And they will until your life ends, you expire. So in this moment, and between now and that imagined moment in the future, why not be awake and present in this exquisite, taking in the ocean of air, and relinquishing it. Are you struggling to pay attention to the breath, holding yourself a little tense somewhere? Or are you just resting in the present moment? Notice that it's breathing. And this next comment is particularly for those of you that are here for the first time, though many of us need it years into practice. You'll notice that your mind wanders. Don't try to stop it. That is a fool's errand. The very act of noticing that it's wandering is freedom. When awareness discovers it wandering, then gently come home to the sensations of breathing. But don't start a war. Don't battle with the mind. We always lose that battle. But awareness is infinitely more vast than the human mind, human thoughts. They're like dust motes in a sunny sunbeam. So when awareness winks on in the midst of the trance of the wandering mind, just notice, that's what's happening. Yes, awake. And then come home to the breath if you want. The mind falls into trances of wanting things, of not wanting things, into restlessness and agitation and worry and doubt and sleepy dullness and all kinds of emotions. This is all completely natural, normal. Our task is simply to acknowledge and accept that truth and wake up. And following the breath is a comfortable way to orient ourselves. Attending to the breath is more accurate. Abiding in the breath in the present moment. Now, of course, it's sometimes hard to do this because we are used to being hyper-stimulated, distracted. Sometimes the pain in the body builds up, and there's ways to work with that as the practice matures, but if you need to move, then move. There's no magic in sitting cross-legged or sitting still forever. The magic is in the fact that there's awakeness. The mystery. So the mind wanders and thinks and plans and worries and judges, and the breath comes and goes, and you can abide in the breath, the sensations of breathing. just had an idea that's never occurred to me before, which is if you're feeling restless and agitated or kind of just yucky, take a moment to just shake. Shake your hands and arms and just don't try to sit still for a little while. Just shake your shoulders and neck and head and and then, when you've had enough of that, or close to enough maybe, then just let yourself sit still again. Don't feel locked in. I think there's a Raffi song about shake your sillies out. And then, if it's right, then just drop back into sitting. Come home to this miracle which is your in-breathing and out-breathing. Some people find it helpful to count the breaths from 1 to 10 and then start over. Others find pointing at the sensations of breathing with little thoughts is helpful, like rising, rising, falling, falling. When the mind wanders, noticing wandering. There are many, many strategies to help with this being somewhat concentrated and mostly present. Please allow your or the awareness to notice your left elbow. There's life there, isn't there? Or let it notice your right knee. Or your right thigh. Let it notice the crown of your head. And the toes of your right foot. We take it for granted, but isn't that a remarkable capacity? Please bring awareness into your left eye. And your lips. And this isn't a test in any way, it's just an invitation to be alive in your both eyes now. And let your eyes make a clockwise circle in their beautifully lubricated orbits. And then counterclockwise. And now let's notice the intention which happens in the mind. There's an intention before actions. Notice the intention to allow the eyes to open. And then let them open, but slowly. Let seeing occur, or become aware of seeing as it naturally occurs. Seeing. And then let's do another intention, which is become aware of your non-dominant hand, the one you don't write with. And then prepare to lift it up so you can look at it. But don't do it suddenly. Notice the intention and then let it move and let it come up. And maybe look at the palm side of it first. This one has a little bit of a tremor. And then let your middle finger bend a little bit. Notice this is moving of matter at a distance. It's a psychic power. Psychokinesis. And then let your thumb move and become aware of that. Seeing of movement and feel the movement. And then let them all kind of wiggle in space. And then let it turn over and take a look at the back. And let it close and open while you feel it a few times. This is mindfulness meditation. Being present, knowing what's happening. And observing intentions, which is karma, which is how we set ourselves free from future messes. I'm going to tell you a joke. I've thought of it 100 times when teaching on Sunday mornings, and I never told it, but I'm turning over, I turned 70. So, there's that, when I'm old, I shall wear purple, and it's, when I am 70, I shall be less rigidly controlled. It goes like this. A young woman walks into the hairdresser, and she's wearing a headset, one of these over-the-ear things. It would be better if she had a headset that went like this, but no, this is the kind that goes over the ear, the old kind. And the hairdresser says, well, we'll just take that off. And she says, no, don't take it. If I take off my headset, I'll die. So the hairdresser does her best, but it's really a crappy haircut. So she comes in again a while later, and same thing happens. And she said, well, let's take off the headset this time. No, I'll die if I take off my headset. So you could think this is a story about addiction to technology, but it's not. So this happens 4 or 5 times, and finally the young woman comes in, and she's in the chair, and she gets really relaxed, and she falls asleep. And the hairdresser thinks, now today's the day I can give her a decent haircut. And she takes off the headset and puts it aside, and the young woman falls over dead. And before she calls the police, the hairdresser, picks up the headset, and you know what it's saying? Breathe in, breathe out. If breathing had to be intentional, we'd all be dead. So there, I did it. I got it off my chest. You wouldn't believe how many times that's come up. So I want to invite you to a party here tonight. Gary Sanders, raise your hand, Gary. One of our teachers here at PIMC and I are leading a remarkable process. It's a grief ritual. This is the first part. Starts at 8 o'clock. I have in my car 2 large stainless steel bowls that Tanya Harding lent me, our cook, our master cook friend. And I've done this before on retreat, but I've never done it here at the center for some odd reason. So in the middle of the room, on this table, there will be the one bowl, and it'll have candle or candles in it. I'm not sure exactly how we'll do that. And there will be candles around it. And there will be a chair and a couple of cushions. And the rest and we will be sitting around it, and we will be chanting Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi Swaha. And that means, through one translation, gone, gone, gone beyond going, hail the goer. And we'll be chanting that, and then, and before we do this, I'll do a guided meditation about our losses. And the losses, if we had balloons above our heads that contained the truth of our lives, we would have exquisitely beautiful joy, love, connection, and we would have oceans of tears and loss. Our dog from childhood, our friends, the hopes and dreams, our youth, and our culture is beyond quadriplegic in its incapacity to grieve. It's one of the reasons we're having this epidemic of addiction and drugs and isolation and fear, because if we're going to meet another person in love, we're going to start feeling what's happening inside us, and we haven't grieved our grief. It's one of the things that happen when people take up meditation beyond stress management. Things start coming up because the healing wants to happen. So tonight will be an opportunity to come and participate or watch, and to bring pebbles. Pebbles are little stones. I will also have a bucket of appropriate items. And I'll do this guided meditation. I'll invite people to take a pebble or 2 or 10 or 15. One time I did this years ago. There was one woman who had, ready for this, 11 miscarriages. We've done it other times around the loss of babies in utero to miscarriage or abortion. There was another time, you were there, I think. It was at Cloud Mountain. There was a fellow who had, oh, it makes me teary, had lost something like 28 or 35 friends to AIDS back at the height of the catastrophe. And he went up there and he was there for a long time naming them. So, if you wish, if a person wishes, they can go up, and if they want to be not heard, they can increase the volume and we'll go louder. If they want to be heard, they can lower the volume. And then you can do whatever ritual thing they'd like to do and then drop it in the grief bowl with a clink, if you want. And then there will be another bowl, and I must remember to take down the smoke detector. There will be another bowl in which there will be a flame and a place, there will be small pieces of paper to write things on, and anything that it's time to relinquish or that would be useful to burn, there will be a burning pile in the middle of the room. Following that, and I don't know how long that'll take, I have no idea how many people are going to turn up, but following that we will do practices of closing this up and of compassion for each other, and then Gary's going to lead us in something on the Brahma Viharas, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. We will probably dance, and then around midnight we will have a ceremony of taking refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha and of some contemplation of the precepts as we go into the new year. And then we'll go in the backyard and blow off $1,000 worth of fireworks. No, that's not. I'm past that. I used to love that, and now I don't find it so fun anymore. $500, right? Yeah, I drove about 100 miles up into Washington one time to go to a special Indian reservation. The craziness of our youth is nuts. So that's going to happen, and I invite you to come. Great way to spend New Year's. So, Avi, where are you? There you are. Please come and announce. Oh, what we're going to do beyond this, Avi's going to do announcements. Jim will... Hu-wei Na, well, I get your name. Lipo will lead us in some Qigong, and then I'm going to. I think I may talk about wise speech today, but maybe not. We'll see. A little out of control up here. Avi, I would like to out. I'm going to out Avi. He was here late last night working, which I disapproved of. There you are.
But because I'm practicing loving kindness, I am forgiving myself for working late.
All right. Good.
Hi, Sangha. I'm going to remember. I have a hard time. Is this okay?
A little loud in the room.
Oh. How about that? Is that okay?
Better.
Hi out there in internet land. Happy New Year. Announcements. We have a bunch of things going on. So today after Dharma Talk, there are Dharma consults. Who's doing the Dharma consults? Yeah?
I am moved. My name is Kate. I'm one of the teachers here, and I just wanted to invite you. I think there are a lot of people who don't know what Dharma consults are, and I just want to let you know we have 3 20-minute slots, and that you can sign up at the back of the room, and it's just to bring your questions. If you have a question about your practice or the Dharma, please just come and sit and chat with me for a few minutes. I'd look forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate. And also, if you are looking... Oh. Thank you. That was unexpected. And also, if you have not started a practice yet and you are looking for like a quick on-ramp to starting a practice, Kate can help you with that too. After the Dharma talk, please join us down in the living room for tea and as my people say, nasharai and stuff, and get to know your Sangha mates. As Robert has talked about in Dharma talks before, community is the whole of a holy life, and we have plenty of great community here. There is going to be the New Year's Eve ritual that Robert talked about. I am assuming, maybe somebody knows, is there going to be the regular sit tonight at 6:30? No. Okay. Then for tomorrow on Monday, there is no Beaverton sit with Jim. That is canceled. For the rest of the week, see the calendar. And then we have just like a whole bunch of other things coming up. So on Tuesday the 9th, Gary's Boundless Heart Sit, we have a special evening with visiting teacher Scott Tusa. That is on the website. On the 13th, we have a men's workshop that is also on the website. On the 20th, Jim Dalton is doing one of his half-day Qigong retreats. If you like what we do in here, you will like 4 hours of it even more. And then on the 27th, we have a visiting teacher, Pablo Das. That is not yet up on the website, but it will be by tomorrow, by Tuesday. And then we have 2 classes starting, Skillful Speech about nonviolent communication. That'll be starting on the 31st. And Basics of Mindfulness will be starting on the 25th. There's like 4 flyers out there in the entryway. If, it's like I throw all these things at you, I can't possibly expect you to remember all this stuff. So feel free to grab some flyers. Feel free to post them around the neighborhood too, if you want to help get the word out. The office is going to be closed on Monday. My name is Avi. Most of you probably know that I'm coordinator here at PIMC, but maybe some of you don't. My office hours are in the mornings, Monday through Thursdays. Please come and see me or call me or email me if there is anything that I can do to help you connect with this wonderful community in a deeper way. And I want to wish all of you a really, really joyous, peaceful, and wonderful New Year. Blessings to you all. The ritual, it is like, you can start gathering around 8 o'clock, but I think Robert intends that it will start at 8:15, and then it'll go, the scheduled time is it goes until 12:30, but it sounds like it could go on just until it ends. Who knows when that will be? Buddhists are wild and crazy. We could go all night if we want to. Anything else? Yes? Yes, of all of the classes and all of the events I announced are on the website, with the exception of the visiting teacher, Pablo Das. That has not made it onto the website yet, but that will within the next few days. What's that? And Kevin Griffin is in February. Yeah, but I mean, it's in the beginning of February, and I figured people's heads are jammed with straw trying to remember all this stuff. I didn't want to overwhelm people. But yes, there is a visiting teacher, Kevin Griffin, who is coming in the beginning of February, and that will get on the website too. Anything else?
Let's hear it for Robbie.
Yay, let's hear it for me.
Also, hot off the press, Richard Lang is returning. And the ways that I was drawing, the way that I was speaking of driving this morning, he would call headless. He's a teacher of the headless way, a direct way of being awake. And he came a year ago, and he's returning in February. It's on the calendar, but it hasn't been advertised yet. So I invite you to save time. We have this place is becoming a hotbed of wonderful visiting teachers. So, but really save time for Richard Lang, because he did an amazing thing here last year. He's incredibly funny. And I came away from it really quite changed. It wasn't just a teaching, it was a transformative time. So it's a Saturday, and then in the evening he does 5 Rhythms Dance as part of you can't come to just the evening, it's because it's very much a part of the day. And it's really quite a wonderful time. So check the calendar and come on down. People? Oh, you don't want this? No. You can't use this. I gave myself as a Christmas present a new camera, so I'm taking some pictures. I won't take pictures of you folks, I'm going to take some of Jim, and getting some new stuff up on the website.
So join me upright and awake. So let's get in touch with our feet and move a little bit back and forth. Notice that you can place your attention on the weighted foot, or you can place your attention on the empty foot. You have this ability to intend where the awareness settles. It's not an aggressive, tight, stressful thing. It's just letting the attention go into the weight or into the empty and just moving back and forth. And then we can come to stillness and notice that there is no stillness. As soon as you attempt to be still, you become aware of movement and aliveness in the whole body. And then sinking, we'll let the arms rise and notice how the hands move through the air, surrendering to gravity, and the arms rise, resisting gravity, just a little bit of effort, not a lot. Just surrendering to this easy motion. We don't have to pay attention to every single micro movement. We just hold the image of a soft, smooth curve to our movement, and maybe imagine swimming in dense, heavy water, or swimming in honey, or moving against a little bit of resistance. And how we hold our intention changes the sensations in our arms and our hands. Lifting, opening, feeling the chest expand, coming back to the center, we sink again. The awareness can be settled very gently on every step of the lift and the opening, the intention to return to the center, and then surrendering again. I just realized I have to leave some time for Robert to talk. Let's lift overhead. I'm slow today. It's like molasses. It's not honey. So we're painting a rainbow. Watch what happens when you create an image of a rainbow in your imagination. How that changes the sensations of the movement. If it's all your favorite colors, there's a feeling of joy that goes with the movement. And then letting it go, new image, penetrating a cloud and separating. Lifting, pressing out, turning to the side, palms up, and then bringing one hand in and pushing with the other. So our attention settles first on one hand moving in and the other hand moving out. And there's some sort of generalized, they call it the executive function. It says this movement will take place in such a way so that the two hands reach their destinations together. Something's controlling that in the nervous system. We set the intention and it unfolds. Dropping the hands, opening the shoulders all the way around. Shoulder blades come together, and then they relax into neutral. So just a soft effort, and then a total release. Lifting across, now the weight goes into one foot, significantly different than the other. Can we feel the difference? Can we notice? Not working at it, just allowing the awareness to move gently from one foot to the other, from one hand to the other. Maybe checking in on the shoulder. How does it feel? And then inviting the hips to join. We call it gazing at the moon, but it's a much bigger stretch for the hips and the spine. Lots more sensations up and down the spine. Lifting the hands. Releasing them down, relaxing, and then lifting. Pressing across. Continuing to feel the weight shift. Intending to put the weight of the hand out here in the corner changes the sensations in the feet. Then reaching across, lifting one palm so we can see it clearly with our focus, and let the other palm face the earth. We don't focus on that, but we know it's there. That's some of the versatility of the awareness. It can be focused on the upper hand as we switch, but it doesn't lose track of the shadow below the cloud. And it doesn't lose track of the rest of the room. And if Richard Lang was here, he would talk about the headless awareness. You can't see your head, but you're aware of the head being locked into focus on the palm. How does that happen? Awareness just pours out of this headless awareness. Being headless, we can hold the whole room. All right, then we'll step and stretch forward, rock back and open the arms. Feel the weight supported by the toes, and then lift the toes. Where does the weight go? What is the sensation of splashing in the sea and rocking backward, riding the waves? Smoother curves. How does the nervous system respond to that intention? Smoothing. And then a little more energetic, palms up, palms down. There can be a smooth figure eight in the wrists and the forearms. And then back to the center. We'll step out and splash in the sea again. Feeling the toes balance us, feeling the other foot balance us. Listening, following the waves. The rhythm of the boards squeaking underneath. Opening the arms, aware of our surroundings. We're not interfering with anyone else's space. Plastic awareness. It knows how to adjust to all these bodies around us. All right, now back to the center. Take up less space now. Just for a moment, we sink, make a fist, rise up out of the sea like a dragon rising from the sea. Chinese stories have storms coming in with cleansing, healing force, wiping everything clear. Opening the arms, soaring with the cranes, up on the toes. Some days are easier than others. And then gathering a full circle, a big wheel, engaging the whole body. Awareness can be so versatile. Swinging the other way to start, and then following the curves. And then coming back to apparent stillness. Pardon me. Get balanced and raise one hand and one knee. Balance on one leg. Even though the body's in motion, there's a stability on one leg and then movement all over. And then a gathering all this experience into one easy breath. Just feeling the pulse of an easy rhythm, filling the lungs, filling every cell in the body with new energy. And then the apparent stillness again. We're never really still, but we're poised, composed in a manner that allows us to feel the vitality throughout the whole body. Knowing that everyone around you is participating in the same general exercise. There's a composure in the group. We don't experience that much in our culture. It's a precious gift. So receiving that gift with gratitude, thank you all for being here and participating. Thank you. And if you come for the workshop, we won't be doing this for 4 solid hours. We do 20 minutes of movement, 20 minutes of sitting, 20 minutes of movement, 20 minutes of sitting.
have a question for you. If you gave me this at my birthday party, please let me know who you are. Despite the request for no gifts, there were gifts. And someone moved all the cards and put everything together, so I had no idea who things are from. So if this came from you, I'd love to know who. I love it. Come up and play with it yourself later if you want. That is weird, isn't it? So, don't think I need that. I might. Good. Okay. Oh, interesting. 5% battery. Maybe we'll save this in case I want to use it. Yeah. So, hi everybody. We're so fortunate to have our health and a warm place to be and no shooting nearby. Enough food, and extra food, too much food. So much to be grateful for. Well, I think I will go ahead with the plan that I had this morning I'm doing a series kind of intermittently on the Eightfold Path with maybe 30 talks on the Eightfold Path. And we've had several. The last specific one was Christine speaking about wise intention. And something's nagging. Let me just go see what pops up. The Secretary General of the UN yesterday made a special plea to the leaders of the world to emphasize connectivity and mutual responsibility and to move away from division and hatred and racism and sectarianism and threatening each other. Because it seems like there's been somewhat of a growth of that, a movement toward nationalism in its worst sense, and the frightened pulling back into I, me, mine, right? The song of the self, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. And the sense that it's a zero-sum game. If I don't get what I want, then I'm willing to get what I want, even if it costs you a lot or everything. And so one of the things that I've noticed is that the tenor of conversation has worsened. And there's a way that at the highest levels of government, internationally even, people are speaking to and about each other really like, I don't know, unconscious angry second graders. And this isn't new, of course. There was lots of war at the time of the Buddha, and there's been lots of war ever since. And there's been lots of people fighting with each other and not getting along with each other. I just lived through the Christmas time, and the discomfort of expectations. It should be like this, it shouldn't be like that. This person should be like this person shouldn't be like that. I should feel like this, I shouldn't feel like that. And the amount of dukkha, when everybody has, in my world, my little close world, plenty of food, transportation, healthcare, but still there can be so much suffering, and it can be so exacerbated by what we say to each other. And so in the Buddhist model, way back, right, 2,600 years ago, the Buddha taught this map, or it's kind of a map, a set of strategies for how to live so that we are, as individuals, are happy, the people around us are happy, and therefore we contribute to the world being a happy, cooperative place. The dilemma that we have is that we hold within us the most exquisite light, the most exquisite capacity of awakeness. We are love. And coming out of our history as mammals and as separate creatures, we have greed and hatred. And we can identify with the separateness and forget our big identity. I've had the incredible privilege, as I said, I think I turned 70, and I've been doing just a little bit of life review, and I've had a good run. I've lived all over the planet, and I worked on ships, and I was a cowboy in Australia, and a ski patrolman in Switzerland, and a monk in India, and I've had planetary experience. And I was born Canadian, and I'm now both Canadian and American. And nationalism is a very strange illness. Patriotism is really weird. And it's everywhere, it's not just here. The Swiss are very proud, and that we identify with these fantasies which are countries. And if you're born on the other side of this line, you don't deserve our care. That's really sick. The fact that we can tolerate people living on the streets in this country when there is so much wealth is sick. They don't deserve to be there, right? It's not because they're mentally ill, most of them, or at least half. And as I can't remember their name now, there was a woman 2 or 3 years ago, she wrote a book. She was the director of a national organization, I forget what, women's rights issues, and her husband was making a multi-3-figure salary. He got cancer. They quickly surpassed their $1 million payout, and they went bankrupt, and they were on the street. Very wealthy people, because our country has such a ridiculous, in the Western world, we don't really have a safety net. Therefore, we're all kinds of anxious about it. So there's this anxiety, and it's a throwback to our primitive nature, and we have that. But the Buddha, and it was the same at the time of the Buddha, but the Buddha woke up. He realized the madness of it. And then he taught for 41 years or so how to free ourselves from the insanity which results in being able to treat each other badly. how to free ourselves from the identification with the mood states and the fear and the willingness to do harm in order to protect just this one. It's like this small picture problem. So he taught the Eightfold Path, and the first step of the Eightfold Path, and there's several talks of this on YouTube now, several from the past and several recent. But the first, just to summarize a bit, our worldview matters. So how we view the world is of great importance. And if we view the world as, oh, we are us. That person on the street is me. That person in the White House is me. How shall we live? That person in somewhere else on the planet that we hold as evil, that's me. If we see it that way, then we start behaving differently. So that's a worldview issue. If we see everything as impermanent, if I realize everything's going to go away, right? My most beloved possessions and persons will all be separated from me before long. So how could I not be loving? And that's true for everybody. Everybody in this room, everybody on the planet, everyone's dying before we know it. So why do we act so strangely? And how we do it is we go crazy. We revert to our primitive nature. So wise understanding. One other piece of wise understanding, there really, and this is straight from the Buddha, there really is no way to become lastingly satisfied. You can have billions of dollars and you're still not secure, because that doesn't do it. Nothing does it. In fact, there's always a nagging, there's something wrong, which is because we're separate. So when we can feel that, when we discover, oh, there's something nagging, it doesn't mean I have to eat something or buy something or expand my borders or something. It means, oh, there's something, that's life, huh? So there's that. In the law of karma, our actions have results, and so we have an impact on them, on the world. Then there's the recognizing that there's this dukkha, this unsatisfactoriness, and there is freedom, but it's going to take some waking up. And then there's wise aspiration or intention. We all have a strategy. I'm going to get this and then I'll be happy. I'm going to finally get pregnant and then I'll be happy. Or finally the kids are going to go to school and then I'll be happy. Or, oh, they're going to go to college and then they don't text. It's like, what's going on here? Or. And the Buddha suggested that there's really useful things to aspire to. Like, I really like to become very loving. I'd like to experience boundless compassion. That when I encounter suffering, I'd like my response to be, oh, suffering, how can I help? I'd like to be able to renounce things, not to renounce as in I don't want it, but I don't want to have to follow every desire that I have. I'd like to be free from attachment to that wanting thing, because it never gets satisfied. Right? Robert Bly said beautifully that over every entrance to every mall there should be a sign that says you can never get enough of what you don't really want. Because that's not what we really want. What we really want is love and to be loving. And everything else is a consolation prize. All of our addictive tendencies and our aggressive tendencies, they're all about, the Sufis say there's only one desire, and that desire is God. And we convert it. I mean, Osama bin Laden's real desire was peace on the earth and love, but he got it a bit wrong. And that's the same now with all aggression. So, wise speech. If I want to become a person who lives in harmony and am at ease and am loving and am compassionate, how shall I behave? And then, so there's then, what are our major behaviors? We have our behaviors of mind, and that's the whole realm of meditation. Learning to work with our behaviors of mind that dig channels deeper. And mind is the forerunner of all states. Mind, before these words get spoken, mind, they're generated in mind. Before this reaching out happens, it's generated in mind. Before I push the button to launch a thermonuclear attack, it comes from mind. All of these huge problems that we have in the world are what Joanna Macy spoke of this on a thing I was watching recently. They're monomaya, they're mind-made. Hence, they can be dismantled by human minds. All of the problems that we have are mind-made. Which is very hopeful, because that means we can change them. So, mind, and then there are behaviors of speech and of action. We'll talk about the precepts tonight, right? Yeah. So speech. How we speak matters. Threatening doesn't help. Gossip doesn't help. Harshness doesn't help. Lying doesn't help. So I thought I might ask you before. I've got a few things I want to say, but what have you discovered? The wisdom in this room is extraordinary. Right? People, so much. We have been through so much. What have you discovered that really works in speech? And I want to take 10 or 15 minutes and ask you to share what you know works. And if you'd say your name first, and then just take a minute or two. Don't do very long, okay? So I'll bring you the mic, whoever would like to. Hello? That was weird. That sounded like a loose connection to me. So, after that, oh, thank you. How'd you know? Now, not all at once, please. It's a pain when there's too much pressure on the microphone. What works? Please. And please say your name.
Hi, I'm Diana. I don't always get it, but if I am patient and I wait and I don't say the first thing, in recovery they have a saying, first thought wrong. So I set with my thoughts, and oftentimes they unwind themselves without me needing to say anything at all.
I'm Avi, and I found, particularly in my intimate relationships, it seems to work best when I stay away from certainty, when I try really hard, no matter how certain I am of something, to phrase it in a way where it's something like, I could be wrong, but, or I might be mistaken, but, sort of like, so it's clear that there's room for some discussion. That's mine. Who's next?
Just following up on that, if you have a choice between a noun and a verb, always choose the verb. Because nouns are what we're certain about and we attach to. And if we get into expressing ourselves through, I'm feeling, and it's an action kind of thing, then it's a process, and I can let go of it. Just like in Qigong, you don't hold your arm up forever. You move and flow. So flowing rather than hold your arm here. That feeling of the noun has all kinds of boundaries, and it gets me in trouble. Flowing is better.
morning, everyone. My name's Peter, and try to keep in my mind Lincoln's, I think it was Lincoln's quote, correct me if I'm wrong, better be silent and thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt. I'm not always successful at avoiding that, but what I have learned is this concept of negotiating with my feelings. Because oftentimes if I want to say something to somebody, usually it's not always a positive thing. And I don't have to act on that feeling. Just because I feel it doesn't mean it's true. So I find that has been helpful for me.
Thanks. My name's Scott. I have 2 young daughters, so I have a lot of opportunity to practice unskillful speech and skillful speech. There's a lot of opportunity to not be listened to and then react in a way that's unskillful or unwise. So what I find is that if I step out of the moment for a second, but then realize I have to really think about what's going on, like what's actually happening here. Because, what does this little person really want? What does this little person really need? And usually it's love or a hug or some attention as opposed to whatever it is that they're actually asking for and whining about. So just taking a moment and seeing through. It works with adults too, apparently, but...
Hi, I'm KB. I don't know if this works, but it's something that I felt greatly compelled to do this year, especially, and something does break when I do it. That is maybe good and bad. I don't let lies sit in the middle of a room like an egg. If a lie comes out, I say something. I don't know if it's working or not, because I really don't know how each person takes it, but not letting it sit there as if truth feels right to me, whatever that means.
One of the things that I found that works really well for me is thinking of the person I'm speaking with and the contract that is established when we speak to one another. And if we're truthful and compassionate, then the contract is trust and love. If we are, if we feel like we have to tell something that isn't our truth in order to maintain the friendship or the relationship, then what we're doing is we're setting up boundaries. And so I try really hard to be trusting, just to be trusting that the other person will take what I'm giving openly and honestly. I find it works really well.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mateo. When you asked that question, I think what came to my mind is that, a couple of things. A couple of quotes that I love is the Gerald Jampowski quote that we are either coming from a place of love or fear. To see people when they're not at their best or their peak, to be able to say that maybe they're coming from, they've had a bad day or something happened to them, not to say that they're intentionally being mean. So I think that's really helped. And then also, I was reading a preface to kind of a beginner's guide, layperson's guide to the Kabbalah, and the author said that that we are all trying to teach what we most need to learn. So, which I think is so profound when you hear people talking about things. And one experience that I had personally was years ago. I mean, there's probably been more recent ones, but I was working at a bookstore, and someone came in and they asked me to find this book for them. And it took me a little bit to find it, and then the person said to me, "You don't know what you're doing." They said, obviously you don't know what you're doing. Can you get someone else to help me? And I was reading a lot of Buddhist stuff at the time. So I just kind of took a moment and just pretended like I didn't hear that and just took it in. And then I found the book and I pointed it out to the person, and then they said thank you and then came up to me later like they were the nicest person. So to be able to show them love even though they weren't reciprocating, I think that, so anyway, that was my experience. So thank you so much.
I'm Cricket. Your comment about intent made me think of a cousin of mine, and she had a young daughter who did several things which the intent was wonderful. My cousin Eva Louise came into the kitchen one day, and she had an old-fashioned kitchen drawer, a big metal-lined drawer that was filled with flour. And she came in, and her daughter, who at that point was 5 maybe, had broken several eggs into the flour drawer. And as Eva Louise walked in, her daughter looked at her with a big smile and said, "I'm making you a cake." And it would have been so easy to get angry about all of this instead of realizing the intent. And Eva Louise had a lot of that happen with her daughter, like the time she decided to polish her mother's white shoes with black polish to be helpful to polish her shoes and so on. But I think it's more obvious sometimes with kids, but I think it's true with adults too, that sometimes we have to look at not what they've done, but what the intent was.
Hi everyone, I'm Michael, and what I'm going to say, I think a lot of people have said this in different ways. This past year I took not one but 2 courses for nonviolent communication, also known as compassionate communication, and so I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with it, but for those that aren't, it essentially is a process that we use for communication, and what it is, we observe a situation, we check in with our feelings, how do I feel about that? And then we make a request for what it is that we're needing at that moment. And the request part is really important, is what I've learned. So that's something that helps me with skillful speech, and it's something that it's the tip of the iceberg for me on learning that process, but it's something that I think if everyone can communicate that way, we'll have a drastically different world.
Hi, I'm Leland. One thing that I try to do is just ask myself, okay, is this coming from me or is this coming from my ego, or my insecurity? Is this, if there's any sort of like, well, who does this person think they are, kind of angst coming up in me before I respond, then I kind of try to check myself. And the other thing I do is I try to just take responsibility for my own emotions. Sometimes I think I can get into this thing of, well, this person said something and they're making me feel this way, and now I'm going to respond verbally and punish them or something, and instead just trying to take it as, well, they said that and then this is how I'm feeling, and then respond from there.
Hi, I'm Barney. I came across a saying, kindness goes a long way, but sarcasm goes further. And at first, it may seem venomous to communicate, but just like poison, there is a serum that comes with it too. So over the Christmas, my nephew and nieces started dinner without the adults, and I looked over to one of them and I asked them, "Wow, you did a really good job waiting for the adults. Tell me your secret." And one of them looked at me and smiled. And I think he caught himself feeling that moment. So I think it comes down to intent. Whether is it an aggressive approach, or are you trying to get the serum in that poison to come out?
I don't know if you've noticed, but in the videos that I've been seeing online recently, they've started putting ads in the middle of the video. It used to be that the ads were just at the start of the video or at the end of the video. Now they're in the middle, and you'll get to a crucial scene, and they'll say, in 5 seconds, you'll get the rest of the video after you see this ad. So this is an ad. We've got a skillful speech class coming up on the 31st. So if skillful speech is of interest to you, and it sounds like it is, we have a class coming up for that. Okay, on with the video. Hopefully I wasn't as irritating as the ads I've seen on the videos that I've been watching.
My name's Nick, and I just have a couple of comments. First of all, I read that about 93% of communication is nonverbal. So, right, speech extends to body language, and your comment made me think of tone as well. As a substitute teacher, the difference between a sarcastic comment in one tone and a different makes the whole world. And my second thought is just brevity can often go a long ways. Leave it there.
I'm Danielle. I'll stand over here. And I was just going to say, somebody gave me a tip once that in the event of a confrontation, to, of course, try and put yourself in the other person's shoes first and listen. But that it can be really softening to the whole conversation to open by saying, I think what I hear you saying is that you're feeling this, or am I correct? Do I understand this correctly? Am I understanding you correctly? And saying that before unloading my whole blah, 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 blah. Or of course, hopefully not doing that, but can be really helpful for the other person to shift into a space of feeling aware or something. Do you know what I mean? Anybody else?
So let's have 2 more comments, please.
Okay. I think it all starts with inside, and that's the interesting part, is being comfortable with that discomfort inside of us just day to day. Because a lot of times when I'm in a bad fight or some kind of struggle in a relationship, which person next to me probably knows well, is because I'm, something's making me mad because I haven't dealt with it myself too. So if and we're all doing that here, is getting comfortable with that discomfort so that when that vulnerability, what works for me is when I can admit that I'm vulnerable and admit that I'm uncomfortable and unhappy to that person, and then they realize where I'm coming from, instead of, like many of you said, with just lashing out with something, well, you said this, and then it creates a cycle. I mean, we have a great example in our politics of people doing that right now, so.
Amen.
Is that it?
I don't know. Anybody else? One more?
Hi, I'm Ellie. So I'm in the process of being trained to become a therapist. And one of the primary things that we're taught, at least in my experience, has been to pay attention to process over content. So content being what the person is saying to you, or that you are saying to them, and process being how it's being said, and what the emotional content underneath is, and the body language, and the cycles that we get in the patterns of communication, trying to pay attention to all of the subtleties underneath what the content is that's being communicated. Is anybody else?
Neither can I.
Test 1, 2, 3. Funny, I think. Okay, it's a loose wire. Don't move. I will sit still. Well, there we go. So I want to read you this. It's a very short little summary about wise speech from Tanisaro Bhikkhu, Achan Tanisaro, who lives in Southern California, a Westerner who's a major translator of the Buddhist teachings. Since it goes like this. It's about right speech, skillful speech, speech that leads to happiness. As my teacher once said, if you can't control your mouth, there's no way you can hope to control your mind. That's why right speech is so important in day-to-day practice. Skillful speech, explained in negative terms, means avoiding 4 types of harmful speech: lies, words spoken with the intent of misrepresenting the truth; divisive speech, spoken with the intent of creating rifts between people; harsh speech, spoken with the intent of hurting another person's feelings; and the colorful one, idle chatter, spoken with no purposeful intent at all, which is 99% of all media, social media, right? It's, in fact, my wife sent me I can't remember, it was something, it might have been a little video, but there's an interviewer and a guy, and the interviewer says, well, how was it out there sportsing today? And the guy says, well, we weren't sportsing as well as we usually sport. Then this happened and that happened and we sported, and you can substitute anything. It's always the same interview, right? It's a meaningless distraction to keep us busy so anyway, notice the focus on intent. This is where the practice of skillful speech intersects with the training of the mind. Before you speak, you focus on why you want to speak. This helps get you in touch with all the machinations taking place in the committee of voices running your mind. If you see any unskillful motives lurking behind the committee's decisions, you veto them. Isn't it interesting how several of the things that people shared were exactly this? Right? This is the way, this is the Dharma. It's the way it is. If you see any unskillful, you veto them. As a result, you become more aware of yourself, more honest with yourself, more firm with yourself. You also save yourself from saying things that you'll later regret. Who has said something that you later regretted? Who has said something that destroyed a relationship? Who has told a lie or 2 or 10 that turned into a morass of lies? They grow. They're really quite something. Okay, in this way you strengthen qualities of mind that will be helpful in meditation, at the same time avoiding any potentially painful memories that would get in the way of being attentive to the present moment when the time comes to meditate. In positive terms, skillful speech means speaking in ways that are trustworthy, harmonious, comforting, and worth taking to heart. Isn't that a nice little list? In ways that are trustworthy, harmonious, comforting, and worth taking to heart. When you make a practice of these positive forms of right speech, your words become a gift to others. In response, others will start listening more to what you say and will be more likely to respond in kind. This gives you a sense of the power of your actions. The way you act in the present moment does shape the world of your experience. You don't need to be a victim of past events. For many of us, the most difficult part of practicing right speech lies in how we express our sense of humor. Especially here in America, we're used to getting laughs with exaggeration, sarcasm, group stereotypes, and pure silliness, all classic examples of unskillful speech. If people get used to these sorts of careless humor, they stop listening carefully to what we say. In this way, we cheapen our own discourse. Actually, there's enough irony in the state of the world that we don't need to exaggerate or to be sarcastic. The greatest humorists are the ones who simply make us look directly at the way things are. Expressing our humor in ways that are truthful, useful, and wise may require thought and effort, but when we master this sort of wit, we find that the effort is well spent. We have sharpened our own minds and have improved our verbal environment. In this way, even our jokes become part of our practice, an opportunity to develop positive qualities of mind and to offer something of intelligent value to the people around us. It's a nice little 2-page blurb, huh? Idle chatter is an interesting one, isn't it? I've been working a bunch with idle chatter and idle distraction in my life. Like, what's wrong with just washing the dishes rather than turning on the radio or putting on music? Or what's wrong with just driving? Or I invite you to think about the ways that you keep yourself distracted. I'm sort of blessed. I missed out on some, like I missed out on crack and heroin and some, I know folks who didn't. I missed out on jail. I missed out on Facebook for the most part. It just never hooked me. And but I watch I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and it's bad. They have a serious problem. They can't be without their phones for long without it becoming really a serious issue. And they're very normal, very successful. They're beautiful young people. But I see through them into their friends, and the way that they are developing their minds, the only way to have fun is to show somebody something on your stupid box. There isn't sitting, oh, that reminds me, let me read you this. Let's see, this will get me there faster. This is incredible. Ha! From my phone. See here. Here it is. I'm a victim myself. Let me see if I can find it.
Are you being ironic?
I'm being both ironic and it's something important. See, here's a way that it works. It's interesting. Oh, it's not coming to me. Darn. Oh well. I got a text from Adrian Dick, my musician friend from Vancouver. He's in Havana with his wife. They're doing a house exchange with some musicians that they've met. They're in a non-tourist neighborhood, and he said the infrastructure decay, the moldy decay of infrastructure is stunning. And outside their window, there are throngs of people, including teenagers and younger children, who play together with no electronics for hours. And he said, the happiness in Havana is overwhelming. And the music is everywhere. Every shop, every restaurant, most homes, everywhere there's music, and the joy is palpable. This is from a very astute Dharma teacher, wise person. So real relationship is happening, connecting with each other. So back to distraction. Back to distraction and idle speech. I've really worked, this Christmas had some interesting, difficult family politics and some pain with folks. And it's very difficult watching, well, it's true everywhere, but it's very difficult watching one's loved ones suffer because of expectations that someone should be different, right? I have an expectation my loved one should be different, and they have an expectation somebody else should be different. But sitting with that and being quiet for the most part. Just watching what's happening and bearing the dukkha, but being present. And that's been part of my practice of skillful speech, which is just not to speak. Not to speak in a world where we're surrounded with so much speech. It's just constant. So, one opportunity, I think the kids are here, yeah they are, one opportunity for New Year's resolutions, the initiative, what do they call it, when one takes an initiation, it's not like it's over, it's like now I'm starting to work with this, is to decide, it's a new year. What about it? Is this the year that I decide I actually am going to sit every day or frequently? And will I intend, this is my prayer for you, that within a few weeks or months you'll discover that you really, really, really like to have an hour a day to sit. To just be, not to meditate, but to just sit. Unentertained, unintoxicated, just sit and watch the show, no matter what it is. That'd be a nice aspiration. Or 5 minutes, but on a regular basis. And another might be, I think I'm going to take 2018 as a time to really observe unskillful speech in the world and what it does and how it works. And I think I'm really going to observe it in myself, presuming that we will speak unskillfully. I blurted something out the other day that was so unskillful. It was irreparable, but it was really primitive. Like, geez. It's the kind of thing I judge people about. And on the other hand, to practice skillful speech. For instance, to tell yourself at least 3 or 4 times a day, I love you. Right? When you really blow it somehow, to say, I forgive you, I accept that you're human and flawed. To practice that kind of inner speech. And then to practice outer skillful speech, which is to praise the person or to express gratitude for the person that you're with, or I have lots of fun. Oftentimes, it's usually mothers that are struggling with children in the supermarket or something, and you can see they're at their wits' end, but they're doing a good job. They're holding the line, and I love to go by and say, "Great job, Mom." You can see them kind of just smile. There's so many things we can do with our words. So Skillful speech. Third aspect of the Eightfold Path. Very big thing for us. So, I sure wish each of you could sit here right now. It's a very privileged position, and I'm very grateful for it. Oh, I should say this. End of the year message. Thank you. Thank you for your support of PIMC, and so thank you for all of you. Raise your hand if you volunteer in any capacity at PIMC. Wow, look around, lots. This place runs on volunteers, really. There's 3 of us that are employed. I want to thank you for the opportunity, and thank you those of you on the internet. I haven't spoken to you directly today. Hi. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for tuning in and coming and making this work, and for providing the opportunity for me to play this role, because it is a blessed role. It's an incredible privilege, and I'm grateful to Ruth Dennison and all my teachers. And I'd like to say this: if I have said anything, if I taught anything today or this year that would mislead someone, I hope it's just forgotten. It's like, well, that was stupid. Forget that. And if I've said anything or done anything that hurt you, please let me know. Because it's quite possible. We all have a shadow, and I've said this on retreats a couple of times, and someone came up and said, well, you said this, and it was like, oh, goodness, I never thought of it that way. So if that's true, please let me know, and I promise I will receive whatever you have to say with grace, and I'll do the work I need to do to be sure I don't do that harm again. So please let us rise and make a circle. And the kids will come in and we'll do a little closing, ending ritual. Thank you, Eric, for all these months of teaching and being so wonderfully open and loving and providing great guidance to the kids. We're lucky to have you. May I ask you to put your hand on my knee? There we are. Good. I can't hold. Those are cute little gloves. Look at those. They have little ridges. Okay, so we have a hand to hold, or a knee on a hand, or something, a hand on a knee. Aren't we lucky to have bodies? We can touch each other. So touching and being aware of contact. And here we are at internal skillful speech. Why not wish the person on your left well? Think a kind thought about them. May you be happy or free from fear. May you always have lots of giggles in your heart. And to the person on your right, giving this hand a little squeeze. May you be really happy. May this day be the beginning of an outbreak of joy like you've always dreamed for. May every breath become one great long sigh of gratitude. May you realize that you've already committed yourself inexorably to the path of awakening. And so, to everyone on our circle, to all of our friends and relatives, to everyone around us in the houses around us, to the leaders of our country and countries. May we all remember our utter interconnectedness. May we also remember how short a time we're here. And remember that the color of our skin, or whether we have wings or talons or hooves, we all matter. And so, to the best of our ability, let us act kindly and lovingly and generously to each other. And so, are we ready to sing? Yes? Pretty easy to pick up. Whenever you're ready.
May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Oh, then we get the... No, let's have no hair fires. Everyone in the room needs to participate. Giant breath in. 1, 2, 3, blow. Yes! Success. So thank you to those of you who joined us on the net today and in the future viewings. And to all of you that are here today, thanks for coming. And do join us tonight if you can. It will be a marvelous event. And you can simply come and be here. You don't have, there's no performance required. And please come and have a bite of food and some social time with these beautiful other persons that are here.